Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to News 3 Live at 4. It's Friday! Eric Franke is in for
We're
Susan.
the only ones yelling. Everybody's sick.
Well, Bruno's in the other room.
Bruno, yeah, he's normally out here, like, keeping the shout afloat, right?
And Susan
under the weather, on top of her broken arm from slipping. So
when it rains,
she's had a rough week.
Yeah, it rains, of course. So get
well, Susan.
Get better, Susan. We have a busy Friday show, so let's get to it. Here's what's making news. A semi crashes into a car that stopped for a deer in Greene County this morning. Madeline O'Neill is here with details on the 10 people that were injured in that crash.
And Governor Tony Evers wants to put a tax on e-cigarettes. Rose Schmidt will have reaction from those who favor it and those who say it could put them out of business.
And the president visits areas in the south that were hit hard by tornadoes earlier this week. Let's take a look outside. It almost felt warm today.
I took the lead and washed the car today. Sat in a car wash line for a half hour because the weather was nice enough to actually do that.
Yeah, but now it's melting.
Yeah, and then it'll get all wet. I just had to clean it eventually.
What are we looking at here?
Looks like a bird's nest covered with snow.
Oh,
not over yet.
A little early. It is not over yet. Chris Reese is in the backyard weather patio. We have an alert day.
Hey, he doesn't have a coat on.
I know.
Look at that.
I don't. It feels like it's warm out here for once. So I thought I'd, at least try to be optimistic and not have the coat. Plenty of sunshine going on outside and temperatures that are relatively not all that bad. 36 degrees right now, so that's closer to where we should be for this time of the year. Still a couple degrees below average, but those winds out of the south and southeast at 6 miles per hour. That is a warming wind that's really going to help keep things on a warmer note. 37 in Janesville, same for the Dells right now at 37. Lone Rock and Boscobel both into the upper 30s, and these temperatures are much warmer than they were at this time yesterday by about 14 degrees. So yesterday we were at 22 degrees. So it certainly feels a lot warmer this afternoon as opposed to yesterday afternoon. And as long as we keep that southerly wind component in play, that means we're going to keep those temperatures at least somewhat milder as we go through the evening and into the overnight hours as well. But take that with at least a little bit of salt, as if there's not enough on the roads already. We do have a wintry weather that's going to be moving in, especially areas just to the north and west of Madison. With that also does mean perhaps some heavy rain for us. So we do stay a little bit milder tonight with those temperatures around 23 degrees. But then into your Saturday, we are talking a little bit of everything from snow, freezing rain, and perhaps some heavy rain for some folks. And we're going to be breaking that down coming up in Maine weather. But I do want to go ahead and show you guys just how your Friday traffic is starting to shape up. We are starting to see some Beltline brake lights beginning to show up, along with some of those brake lights downtown and just leaving the Isthmus as you head over towards Regent Street and Monroe. Of course, we're going to pay very close attention to that as we go through the rest of your Friday evening. Most of Dane County, though, is in great shape. We aren't seeing any major delays showing up on your routes yet, but of course that Friday rush hour is just getting started. We'll be sure to track that throughout the show as well. Guys?
All right, Chris. Thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes.
First at 4, 10 people are recovering after a crash outside New Glarus and Monticello early this morning put them in the hospital. 9
of them were in an SUV when a semi-truck rear-ended them. Our Madeline O'Neill is here with more on this crash. Wow, a lot of people hurt.
Yeah, definitely. And Highway 69 between Monticello and New Glarus is now reopened this afternoon after being shut down for about 8 hours earlier today. Officials had to clear the scene and reconstruct the crash, which happened at about 5:45 this morning. According to Greene County Sheriff's Department, an SUV with 9 people was heading north on Highway 69 when the driver slowed down to try to avoid hitting a group of deer. That's when a semi-truck hit them from behind, forcing them off the road and into a ditch. The 9 in the SUV, along with the semi's driver, were taken to the hospital by ambulance. Sheriff Jeff Scottrud says anytime that many people are involved in a crash, it's an added challenge for first responders.
The challenges of that are huge and infrequent. So the training that they've had and their experience sure showed today.
We do. Scottrud says the SUV was big enough to properly carry the 9 passengers. Now, as of now, we don't have an official update on the condition of those passengers, but just into the newsroom, we're hearing from Greene County officials. They were heading to the girls' state basketball tournament in Green Bay, supporting their team, the Black Hawk. girls basketball team.
And we don't know the conditions as of right now.
No, we don't.
All right, Maddie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maddie. Governor Tony Evers' spokeswoman says his administration will not force wedding barns to obtain liquor licenses. You'll recall former Attorney General Brad Schimmel threw wedding barns' future into question with an informal opinion back in November, saying private events in public spaces require liquor licenses.
But Governor Evers' plan to impose a hefty tax on e-cigarettes has many vape shop owners shaking their heads.
The governor's budget proposal recommends a 71% tax on all e-cigarettes and vaping products. Our Rose Schmidt explains who this tax could help and who it could hurt. Rose? All right, we're having a little bit of a issue with Rose's microphone, so we'll go back to her in just a minute to get the latest on that. Meanwhile, a judge has ordered former Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to jail for refusing to testify before a Virginia grand jury investigating WikiLeaks. A U.S. district judge jailed Manning this morning after she confirmed she has no intention of testifying to the grand jury because she objects to the secrecy of the process. The judge says she will remain jailed until she testifies or until the grand jury concludes its work.
President Donald Trump is in the South this afternoon. He is surveying the wreckage from this week's tornadoes and visiting with victims. At least 23 people were killed, including 4 children, following the deadliest tornado to hit the region in 6 years. Natalie Brand reports.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump stood silently at a row of white crosses outside a church in Lee County, Alabama. Each one representing the 23 people, including 4 children, who died when multiple tornadoes hit the South over the weekend.
One woman lost 10 people in her family, and an incredible woman, and I said, how did it go? She said, I lost 10 people.
Shortly before meeting with families and first responders, the president and first lady got a first-hand look at the devastation in the town of Beauregard. An EF4 tornado with 170-mile-per-hour winds tore through the community Sunday, leaving a path of devastation almost a mile wide.
We saw things that you wouldn't believe. Here it is. We saw the same thing.
In the wake of the storms, President Trump issued a disaster declaration to assist in the state's recovery.
We're providing all of the aid, so you'll see the FEMA people, let them know as soon as you can, so they know that, because a lot of people don't know that. And they really need aid in this case.
He also thanked first responders who helped save lives.
The first responders have been, so many first responders right here. And you've been incredible. Law enforcement has been incredible.
Federal disaster teams are now working to assess the total extent of the damage. The recovery in Alabama is expected to take months. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
And about 30 tornadoes hammered other parts of the southeast last weekend. Forecasters say more bad weather could hit the region this weekend. And as we mentioned earlier, Governor Evers' plan to impose a hefty tax on e-cigarettes has many vape shop owners shaking their heads.
Well, they say it could put them out of business. Health experts say it's increased the amount of youths taking up smoking. Let's go to Rose now. I think we've ironed out our mic issue and the very latest on this story. Rose.
That's right. Well, the governor's office says that vaping products are being used as substitutes for cigarettes and therefore should be taxed the same way. The state's Department of Health Services says right now there's a youth e-cigarette epidemic going on. The department says last year 20% of high schoolers were using e-cigarettes. Tobacco and vape shops tell me that taxing these products will lead to higher prices for customers and could even drive them out of business. But advocacy groups like the Lodi Community Action Team that works to educate parents about the products say those taxes could prevent students from buying them.
It's an affordability thing, right? If students are on a limited budget, which most of them are, because they're probably getting money from parents or friends, then if the tax is there, then it's more expensive for them to do, and they may avoid it for longer.
We already pay sales tax just like everyone else. We pay tobacco tax, like we have a whole humidor full of cigars, rolled tobacco, but I know there are shops that are just vapor. I mean, a tax like this goes into effect, you're hurting a lot of small businesses.
Now, you just heard from Landon Meskey at Knucklehead's Tobacco and Vape Shop in Madison, and he says it's important for people to know his shop uses ID scanners on everyone who buys something, and that prevents anyone under 18 from buying e-cigarettes or vapes. Now, the tax is just part of Governor Evers' state budget proposal, which faces opposition from Republican lawmakers who plan to write their own. Evers says taxing these products could generate nearly $35 million in tax revenue.
All right, Rose Schmidt reporting that. Rose, thank you very much. R. Kelly's publicist says he expects his client to be released from jail later today.
The Grammy-winning Kelly was put behind bars Wednesday for failing to pay $161,000 in child support. The R&B singer is also facing charges of sexually abusing underage girls, and an Associated Press story indicates that Kelly might go bankrupt due to the taxes and legal issues, but his publicist says his client is ready for court.
I'm here for my client. I'm not here to proclaim innocence or guilt. My client says he's innocent. We're going to court. We're going to go to trial, and he's going to be tried in a court of law. That's it.
Kelly denied all the allegations in an emotional interview this week with CBS This Morning's Gayle King. And if you want to see more of that interview and subsequent follow-ups of developments, CBS is presenting a special hour-long show tonight at 7 o'clock our time right here on News 3 Now.
SpaceX has taken a gigantic step in space exploration with a successful splashdown of its Dragon Crew capsule. Came down to the Atlantic after a successful 5-day mission. The spacecraft launched back on March 2nd, carrying 400 pounds of equipment to the International Space Station. Also on board, Ripley, a dummy crammed with sensors to test the stresses on human passengers. Space Station astronauts tested air quality and checked the capsule before its return trip home. If all goes well, the Dragon capsule will carry its first human passengers into orbit sometime this summer.
You go first.
Sign them up.
You go first. Still to come at 4, there is a big birthday celebration tomorrow.
Barbie turns the big 6-0, and we'll look back at her long life and what lies ahead for the most famous doll of all time when Live at 4 continues.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4.
Welcome back. One of the most recognizable toys is celebrating a major birthday.
Barbie turned 60 this weekend. The first Barbie debuted back in 1959 and over the decades become one of the most popular toys of all time. Now the doll icon is celebrating her 60th birthday. After years of slumping sales, Mattel gave Barbie a makeover in 2016. The toy maker added different body types to a new line of more ethnically diverse Barbies.
What do you see for the next 5 years, 10 years, and beyond when it comes to Barbie and how she's going to continue to evolve?
As culture evolves, Barbie will evolve. That's the key to it. So wherever we go as human beings in the world, that's where Barbie will be.
Well, she looks good for 60, right? Last year, gross sales for Barbie hit over $1 billion worldwide, a 14% jump from 2017. And this little known tidbit, Barbie's official full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. I did not know that.
Trivia question.
I apologize for cutting Barbie's hair on all my sister's dolls when I was
I'm older than Barbie. Great.
Barely.
Wall Street posted a second straight week of losses after a much weaker than expected jobs report released today. The Dow Industrials lost almost 23 points, ending the week at 25,450. The NASDAQ Composite Index gave up 13. The S&P 500 was down 5. Well, the forecast for tomorrow looks like we may get more icing on the sidewalks, and as Susan can attest, that's not good news.
No, a bad winter for broken bones. Dr. On-Call's Orbit Pastor can probably second Susan's testimony of the dangers that ice can pose. And we had some other news this week we'll get into a bit with Alex Trebek, and there was Luke Perry's stroke. It's been a busy week.
Been a busy week.
But ERs around here, we've seen a lot of falls.
Well, and you know, the issue with ice is there are things you can put on the bottom of your shoes. Yak Trax is a good example. You can go to a sporting goods store or Amazon.com. Put it on the bottom of your shoes when you're actually walking up and down the driveway. That makes a big difference. And then just being careful. In Dane County, there were 35 people who died from falls last year. That is more than died from suicide and murders combined.
Wow. So in falls, and they lead to other issues. You end up being homebound.
You're homebound. If you are over 65 and you fall, there's a 25% chance that you will die over the next 2 years, and a 50% chance that you'll be disabled in one or more activity of daily living. So keeping from falling, big issue.
Yeah, a lot of people walking dogs are falling because the dogs will pull them.
Didn't you get the Yak Trax for dogs?
I got
you
spikes.
Did, yeah.
I got spikes. You
those spikes make a difference. You put them on, and that's it. And if the dog pulls you on the leash, let go of the leash.
That's good. Or put on ice skates. One of the two.
Go.
All right, let's move on to Alex Trebek. He announced, unfortunately, this week that he has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. That's not good news.
And pancreatic cancer, I think the numbers are about 95% of the people, when they're diagnosed, will die of pancreatic cancer. It's a bad cancer. We don't know how to screen for it, and frankly, we don't know how to treat it, except when it's in the very, very early stages.
You don't even know you have it.
No, you don't
know
have it. Asymptomatic until some people have painless jaundice. Their eyes will turn yellow, but at that time, usually the cancer is advanced.
I mean, are we just more famous people are getting this? It's not on the increase, or is
no,
it?
It is a common cancer, that's all. And so when a famous person gets it, you know about it. When a famous person gets prostate cancer, you know about it.
Right.
Now, one of the things, Luke Perry, it was this week, died of a stroke. 51 and 52, and it really is a wake-up call. And the wake-up call is get your blood pressure checked. That's the #1 risk factor for that. And of course, diabetes, other risk factors for heart disease are risk factors for stroke, and people should take care of themselves. Eat right.
It just seems like a glut of bad medical news all at once, but this happens every day.
Absolutely, it happens every day. And the real issue this particular year is there are not as many deaths from influenza because the vaccine is better. Last year, 70,000 people died of influenza. This year, the numbers are not going to be nearly that high. Have you had your flu shots?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we both have.
Yeah, that's really important.
But getting back to that stroke, there are also some early warning signs that I know that have been pushed lately so that you know if one's coming on.
If you have something called a TIA, where you feel like you can't talk, you feel like your hand isn't going to work properly, you feel like there's something wrong, talk to your doctor. And the answer is an aspirin a day can make a difference, getting your blood pressure checked. But yes, there are some symptoms that can happen, and if you feel like there's something wrong, that's when you seek medical attention.
And timing is very important with a stroke.
Absolutely, because there are things that we can do early on with a stroke. If you get to the emergency room early on, you can have a neurologist and an invasive radiologist actually giving you a clot-busting drug to keep the stroke from happening. So early warning signs are very important.
And all these things really come back to a diet. You know, if you got to, and exercise.
Diet, exercise, and smoking.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that about 17% of Wisconsinites still smoke. At $8 or $10 a pack, that's a lot of money. That's about $3,500 a year for a habit that can cause heart attacks and strokes.
Well, lots of good news there, Zorba.
Yeah, there is. Spring is coming. That's the good news.
We'll do a lighter topic next time, that's for sure. Good to see you, Zorba.
Good to be here.
Thanks, Zorba.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Take a look at this. Here's what happens when you have too much money and a thirst for thrills. 3 free riders desired to experience fresh snow went to extreme lengths recently when they rappelled 167 feet down from a Zeppelin onto a mountaintop in the Austrian Alps. The 3 men were dropped on top of 7,326-foot high mountain and abseiled down onto untouched snow. Once on top of the mountain, they took it in turns to either ski or snowboard down the mountain valley. It took the crew 2 years of intense preparations to make this project a success.
Boy, just money and time to burn, right? Let's just ski
Austrian
via
Alps.
blimp.
Look at that. Did you do that?
It is something.
I would not do that. Although I was about to say this is about as extreme to see snow, like it made me think of myself.
You do like that.
You like the snow.
You like that stuff.
I'm the one who doesn't go storm chasing, but will go snow chasing.
Yeah, you went to Iowa.
I did.
When we didn't have snow in December. Now you brought
We
it.
hope you're
It's all
bored
good.
soon and that there's no snow. We hope it's gone soon.
Yeah, that'll probably happen.
Well, a peculiar debate to tell you about. This happened on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives yesterday. Lawmakers, they were discussing an election reform bill, and this all involves Wisconsin's 2nd District Congressman Mark Pocan and the band Nickelback.
Only 4 wanted to keep this provision. Everyone else wanted to change this. Out of 77,000, that's probably about the percent of people who think Nickelback is their favorite band in this country. It's pretty low. And I think if you look at it, Nickelback's your favorite band. I apologize to the gentleman.
Why would you criticize one of the greatest bands of the 90s?
Wow. All right. One more reason why there's a difference between Democrats and Republicans, clearly.
Oh, wow. Nickelback taking a shot at him.
Yeah, and he had his facts wrong because Nickelback's first hit was in 2001.
Yeah, that did.
How you remind me?
90s seemed long ago for
Funny
Nickelback.
thing is, I know that song. But all right.
All right. What's the thing with Nickelback?
They just get picked on.
Why do they get picked on?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out.
I think the
either.
music's not that good.
Well, Mark thought it was a good joke, and that sort of backfired on him.
Yeah.
All right, we got an alert day tomorrow.
Yeah, we do have an alert day tomorrow. A little bit of everything going to fall out of the Wisconsin skies. And if you're traveling north and west, get prepared. A pretty strong snowstorm is headed that way. But I'll tell us what we can expect here in Madison and points to the south and east as well. Coming up in just a moment. Well, we have certainly had a cold start to the month of March around here. In fact, the 7th coldest start to March ever. Those first 7 days, we averaged a temperature right around 12 degrees here in town. And really, we saw so many days with temperatures that were below normal. In fact, March 4th, 30 degrees below the normal average temperature for this time of the year. 17 degrees below normal on the 6th and the 7th. And today, although warmer, will likely shape up at least a couple degrees below normal. But here's some of our average first days. Typically, our first 50-degree temperature comes around the last week of February. Of course, that did not happen this year, but our first 60-degree day comes around the last week of March. By April, we start to see those 70s, and well, the 80s come around in May. And oddly enough, we are in March. April and May are not too far away. So we're already starting to see some of those warmer temperatures coming in, and well, The warmer temperatures are at least in the country as well. 80 in San Antonio right now and 58 as you work your way towards Memphis. And we are still in the 40s in St. Louis and mid to upper 30s as you work your way into the upper Midwest. So there is at least some warm air across the country. We are just not in the warmest of it as of yet. But I do think we'll see some pretty warm temperatures in our extended. Just hold on to that thought for a moment. Winds out of the south and southeast at 6 miles per hour. Again, 36 degrees right now in town. 36 was our high. Normal is 39, so we were at least close. Now our low this morning about half of where it should be at 11 degrees. 37 as you work your way down towards Janesville right now. Lone Rock and Boscobel also at 37. Viroqua, get this, at 38. Black River Falls at 41 right now. So we do see signs of that warmth moving on into town. That's all thanks to winds coming out of the south and southeast. And as long as we have that south to southeasterly wind, we're going to stay on the milder side as we go through the rest of the evening and overnight. So temperatures as they begin to come down with some cloud cover moving in and that southerly wind, we're only going to hover into the upper and middle 20s going into the overnight hours. So not all that cold of a night around here, but we'll have our next disturbance coming in that's going to bring rain and some snow to the north. Let's go ahead and bring you closer to home for that and take you hour by hour. Tonight we cool down into the 20s. We start off dry on Saturday. It's going to be Saturday afternoon that we start to see the leading edge of precipitation working its way on in. I do think we could see some sleet and some snow mixing in on the leading edge of that before warm air takes over and changes all things to rain from Madison and points to the south and east. Now, once you get up towards the Dells or places like Devil's Lake, Lone Rock, Camp Douglas, Westfield, that is where I do think you might actually linger in some of the frozen precipitation. You might see more of a mix or more so some snow with that. And then eventually as the storm system pulls away, cold air comes back in, I think we all see a little bit of light snow on the backside, but not a lot of snow at all. Less than an inch if we see any of that snow stick here. As you work your way towards the north, I do think it's possible to see quite a few inches of snow. And then once you get more so towards Eau Claire, the Twin Cities, that's where several inches of snow will be possible. We'll also watch at least the possibility of a little bit of a glaze of ice initially before rain takes over. And I do think that rain will take over quickly. And we could actually see a decent drink of water from this. Half an inch to an inch of rain on a frozen ground with a lot of snow. So that's going to create a mess in general as well. So the moral of the story is a little bit of everything falls out of the sky this weekend. What you get depends on where you are. To the north, more so frozen, but warmer towards the south and east. And we do have an alert day going into Saturday just for that, because in general, it will be a messy day. But here's the good news. Here's a shot of cold that comes on after that. But by the time we get you towards the middle of the week, we begin to see a surge of warmer temperatures. And there are only 12 days to spring. But to make things a little bit better, we do have the first 50-degree forecast in there for you. 40, 51, and 45 by the time we get you towards the middle of the week. So if you can get through this chilly weekend, we do have good news for you, and that is coming on the horizon. So just hang on to that. And even still, as temperatures may come back down below average just a little bit, things are generally going to be a lot warmer for us as we go through time. So 23 degrees tonight. We are going to remain mostly cloudy. I don't think we're going to be as cold as well. Into tomorrow, we get a little bit of everything, perhaps a mix to start, going over to rain for the Madison area and points south, staying frozen towards the north and west of Madison. Oh, don't forget to spring forward, by the way. Yeah, I would forget that one. So spring forward, don't be late coming in to wherever you have to be on Sunday morning, and then thunder perhaps by the middle of the week.
It's springtime.
It is everything time.
Changing quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Anytime.
And be sure to catch News 3 this weekend with Chris and Josh, and then stay tuned for Jane Pauley, CBS Sunday Morning. Here's a preview of what's coming up this weekend. CBS Sunday Morning correspondent Mo Rocca is with us today. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Mark.
I understand one of the pieces coming up today focuses on a Broadway show that features some pretty well-known music.
Yes. Tracy Smith is sitting down with Otis Williams, one of the founding members of the Temptations, the legendary Motown group. Their 50-year-long story has now turned into a Broadway show, and we have tape of the interview. Roll it.
So, could you have ever imagined 50 years ago that the Temptations would be on Broadway?
You could have tipped me over with a feather before I would believe this would be happening to my life. Like I always tell people, see, I'm from Texarkana, raised by 2 grandmothers. From that scene to where I am now, a quantum leap. Never would imagine. So God is truly in the blessing business.
We've also got a bunch of stories about trees. Elizabeth Palmer has a story about trees that are turned into furniture. They're actually kind of twisted around into chairs. And Seth Doan has a very troubling story about a blight that's destroying ancient olive trees in Italy.
And your Mobituary, you continue to have fun with those. You've covered the life of Sammy Davis Jr. and Audrey Hepburn, and you have an episode about a tree.
Indeed, this is sports fans will probably recall in 2011 the poisoning of 2 beloved oak trees on Auburn University's campus by a crazed University of Alabama fan. So this Mobituary, our season finale, is about the legendary college football rivalry between these 2 schools and how it turned particularly toxic in 2011. It's, I hope, a fascinating story for football fans and non-football fans alike.
And tree lovers as well. Mo Rocca,
yeah.
Good to see you. We'll see Jane Pauley at 8 o'clock Sunday morning. Have a good weekend. Don't forget to turn your clocks ahead.
Yeah,
You'll miss
that morning's going to come early.
It is. When we come back, we're headed to the movies.
We'll preview Captain Marvel featuring a female superhero on this International Women's Day. Stay with us.
Like some guys playing hockey.
Doing something out there.
In front of the Memorial
as
Union.
long as it's solid, and it'll be that way for a little bit longer.
Yep. There is a new Marvel superhero in town.
And she is ready to fly into theaters. David Daniel has a preview.
War is a universal language. I know a renegade soldier when I see one.
Look out, Thanos. Brie Larson is Captain Marvel, and she's here to diversify the MCU in its first female-led superhero film.
She goes on this journey, and the more she learns about herself and her humanity and her past, the more powerful she gets. The ultimate message is that the power lies within us all. Boys, girls, men, women.
It's a self-empowering story, and it's about suppression, and it's about overcoming suppression, overcoming boundaries, overcoming the sort of restraints that we sometimes even put on ourselves.
Control it. She didn't need these other people, even though they keep telling her, you know, you are what you are because of us.
I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it.
But Larson says even Captain Marvel can't rescue Hollywood from gender inequality alone.
We're certainly on a path, but there's of course more room to grow. I became changed by getting to embody her every day, so my hope would be that other people would experience that too from watching the movie.
We can't do this alone. We need you.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And our Will Loper will tell us what he thinks of Captain Marvel on Monday.
My son's going tonight, so
I'm sure you're going to have to take the other
he's
one,
going to
too.
like it. I know that. He likes all these. Dad, it's the best one I've ever seen. Every time, so he'll like it.
All right, still to come at 4, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is coming to the Overture Center next week.
The theater, Leela puts a twist on the tale of two star-crossed lovers. Our Michael Bruno is next to tell us what twist that is. And Live at 4 continues.
Well, it is Friday and it is rush hour, so of course we are already starting to see some of those delays showing up. Right now we are looking at the Beltline and Park Street, and sure enough we are seeing more and more of those vehicles kind of slow going out there. Lots of volume, but at least things are moving. That is the good news for us. We are seeing those brake lights really showing up on the Beltline, especially between right around Seminole Highway all the way down towards West Broadway. Traffic speeds anywhere from about 19 to 18 miles per hour, upwards to 29 miles per hour as you begin to approach John Nolan. Again, this is all headed in the eastbound direction. Similar speeds as you head in the westbound direction from John Nolan and just past Fish Hatchery. Going downtown towards the Isthmus, we are starting to see some slowdowns, especially as you get towards University, headed outbound. Some additional slowdowns on John Nolan, same for Monroe Street, but nothing major showing up for us. So that is good news. If you're headed eastbound from Verona Road to John Nolan, your average speed right now 18 miles per hour, so that's going to take you just under 15 minutes. Headed out of the city of Madison, once you get away from the Beltline, things do begin to pick up to what their posted speed should be with no major crashes or delays. Guys?
I would I were thy bird. Ha ha Rio, sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Now that's video of a rehearsal of Theater Leela's production of Romeo and Juliet. The full production opens next week at the Overture Center. The theme of this production is Love is Love, which was the theme of Shakespeare's original work.
Michael Bruno is here along with the director of Theater Leela's production, Jessica Lanningus. Michael, take it away.
Hi, wonderful. Jessica, so tell us a little bit about your vision for Romeo and Juliet, this production.
Well, if you know Theater Leela, you know that we love to look at physical theater opportunities and dance and intermingling poetry with movement. And so when I started daydreaming about the play last year and how we could potentially present it to a lot more teenagers than maybe we have different shows in the past, I was really interested in taking this poetry and adding movement and dance and allowing that to also be a huge part of the poetic way in which this story unfolds.
And we also noticed that the two characters of Romeo and Juliet are played by not your usual casting of male and female in this show. Is that right?
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yeah. So we've cast two young women to play both the roles, and it is two women identifying people falling in love. And so we're doing an LGBTQ version, and it really fits the play so well because you already have these feuding families, right, with the Montagues and the Capulets, and we've added in this other element of, what is it to fall in love with someone of the same sex? And to put this into this work has fit so nicely, and I think I'm really excited we get our audience in a week, and I'm really excited to see how it lands on them.
And you've also taken this to East High School, kind of like a pre-show that you did last week.
Yes, it was a new idea. We're always looking for ways to create more access for students, particularly in Madison. How can we bring the arts and theater to the students was a question that we've had with our board over the last couple of years, and we were often bringing young people in, I should say teenagers, to the Overture Center for our shows, but transportation costs money, and so how do we go into the schools and get all the students that we can just to walk down the hallway? So Paul Millish allowed us to come into his theater, the new East High School Theater, so we were there last Friday, and it was awesome. The kids were leaning in and really listening. I mean, it's Shakespeare, so it's not easy to listen to that language, and the show runs 2 hours and 10 minutes, and there was not a peep out of them. So I was very excited and happy about that. And then we went back to rehearsal this week, learned a lot from that show, and we're in Overture working on it right now.
And the students' reaction was positive.
It was really positive.
Has this been done before, this theme with the two women, or is this unique to your production?
No, I mean, I did a little research when we decided to do this, and it has been done across the country. I don't think it's done a lot or often enough, perhaps. I think, it was really interesting when we were doing a play, Lines, last year, entitled Lines, and it was all women of color writing the piece, and so we were talking a lot about representation. And when I started daydreaming about Romeo and Juliet, I thought, oh, well, what if it, we're such a heterosexual oriented society, right? And I thought, well, what if it was two women who fell in love, and read the play again with that lens, and it just felt perfect for this play. Yeah, it's really beautiful, and they do excellent work.
Well, exciting week ahead for you. Let's show them these showtimes here. Romeo and Juliet, Overture Center, March 14th through the 18th. Here are your showtimes on the 14th and 15th at 7:30. On March 16th, next Saturday, 2:30 and 7:30, and then St. Patrick's Day at 2:30 in the afternoon. Best
Michael,
of luck.
thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank
you for having us.
Right back with the final check of your forecast.
Do you
The calm before the storm.
That's right. Things are warmer right now. We are going to see a lot of wind and rain over the weekend, but I think a lot of folks are going to be interested in just how the next 10 days are shaping up, because we will gradually begin to see an uptick in our temperatures, perhaps temperatures in the 50s by the time we get you towards the middle of the week. That could also come with some lightning and thunder. How about that?
Why not?
I know, it's spring, I guess. 23 degrees overnight tonight, though, mostly cloudy, not as cold. Into tomorrow, we will see just a little bit of everything. Rain in Madison and southeast, snow to the north and west.
Maybe the heat from the lightning can melt some of the snow.
We'll see how that one plays out.
We'll see how that works.
Big mess waiting to happen. Chris, thank you.
Monday here on Live at 4, this month's top-notch teacher creates an environment that makes students want to learn.
And film critic Will Loper will tell us what he thinks of the new action movie with a female lead, Captain Marvel, Monday on the next Live at 4. Lola and Louie have another busy week in the News Hounds Now World Headquarters.
With a little help from Susan, here are the best animal stories of the week in the News Hounds Now update.
It's News Hounds Now Update with Lola and Louie.
This week on the News Hounds Now update, a heck of a lot of elk,
an utter overload,
and an unlikely tiger mom.
But first, check out this bison going after a group of snowmobilers at Yellowstone National Park. The photographer here is inside a snow coach, basically a bus with large tires, capturing the incredible moments on camera. After some extremely close calls, the snowmobilers get away, and then the bison turns his attention to the snow coach. The bison weighs about 2,000 pounds, so you really don't want to mess with this guy. Eventually, he moved out of the way, and the coach moves on.
Whew, after that harrowing experience, it's time for a visual cleanse. The Kansas City Zoo is showing off its newest otter pups, Han, Luke, and Leia. They're Asian small-clawed otters born last October, and their mother and father have been raising them behind the scenes until they got bigger and learned how to swim. Otter pups are not born knowing how to swim, so mom and dad had to teach them. Zoo patrons suggested names, and zookeepers made the final choice to name the pups after the main characters in Star Wars. May the Force be with them.
A month ago, a dog named Dobby gave birth to a litter of puppies, but one of them looks a little different from the rest. That's because Dobby is playing mom to a baby tiger,